in this debate, and I want to extend my warm thanks to the member for Congleton for bringing this debate, very important debate, forward. The cost that alcohol imposes on our society, the social cost, the health cost, the cost to families, the cost to our communities, they simply cannot be counted because, of course, they cannot always be measured in pounds and pence. Across the UK, alcohol accounts for 10% of our burden of disease and death, and it is one of the 3 biggest lifestyle risk factors for disease and death. Alcohol is 60% less expensive now than it was in 1980. And everyone knows when the price of a commodity goes down, consumption goes up. However, I would like to share with the Chamber today the particular challenges, alcohol-related challenges we face in Scotland. Health Scotland reported that retail sales data demonstrate that alcohol sales in Scotland are 20% higher than in England and Wales in 2014. Scottish sales of low-cost vodka are more than twice those in England and Wales. It's estimated that 1 in 3 Scots are affected by a mental health problem each year, with depression and anxiety the most common illnesses. Alcohol and mental well-being are closely related. So we in Scotland have much greater, much more pronounced challenges than the rest of the United Kingdom. The damage that alcohol is doing to our population is extreme, so bold solutions are required. And in Scotland, such bold solutions have not been shied away from. The overall strategic approach of Scotland is different, I would argue has to be different, than the rest of the UK's. A whole population approach is required to reduce the harm caused by alcohol. The important point is that in addition to analysing existing data, such as alcohol-related deaths and hospital admissions, our approach uses sales and price data from market research organisations to examine the relationship between price, consumption and harm. Also examined is the effects of specific policies, such as multi-buy discounts, which it's worth noting are now banned in Scotland. Scotland is the only part of the UK to produce such detailed information, which also includes sales data. Whether we're talking about alcohol, gambling, obesity or physical activity, we need to consider how all of our high streets and our neighbourhoods can support good health rather than contributing to our ill health. For example, we know that deprived areas have 40% more places to buy alcohol than more affluent areas. The more widely available and easily accessible alcohol is, the more we drink, and therefore the more harm is caused. As well as 20% more alcohol being sold in Scotland than in England or Wales, we also know that Scottish male death rates are approximately an astonishing 50% higher than other UK countries, while for women, Scottish mortality is 30% higher. I will indeed.
I think it's the statistic that's true that in central Glasgow, the life expectancy is the lowest in the United Kingdom.
Indeed, and that very appalling and very sad statistic is one that has touched on my own family and one that I'll come on to later. But yes, alcohol continues to cause premature deaths in some of our most socio-economically deprived areas, and it's something that we must intervene to take action on, and indeed I'm about to go on to talk about how the Scottish Government have done that. And the honourable gentleman intervenes at a very personal moment, because I have a very personal stake in this debate. By all accounts, my own father, of whom I have no memory, was an extremely heavy drinker. Was he an alcoholic? Probably, but that wasn't readily talked about in 1960s working class Glasgow communities. I didn't witness his heavy drinking because he died when I was 9 months old, not least because of his heavy drinking. My own husband's father was an alcoholic as well, and that also led to his early death. In Glasgow, where both my husband and I grew up, this was not unusual, and even today it is still more common than you would think for our communities across Scotland. The point is, and I'm extremely proud of this, against much opposition, unfortunately, I have to say some of it on tribal grounds, the SNP Scottish Government took a very bold decision. It decided that the damage that alcohol was doing to our population, to our families, to our communities, could no longer simply be measured and talked about. Action was needed. What else could kill 22 people in Scotland each week, cause 670 hospital admissions each week, cost £3.6 billion each year, and not require bold action? The action came in the form of minimum unit pricing. In our supermarkets and other outlets, alcohol can cost less than bottled water. In some cases, it sells for as little as 18 pence a unit. That is disgraceful. Excuse me, I'll just manage my papers here. There is clear evidence and research showing there's a direct link between changes in minimum pricing and changes in harm and consumption. Estimates show that a 10% increase in minimum price is associated with a 32% reduction in wholly alcohol attributable deaths. Work undertaken by the University of Sheffield shows that a minimum unit price of 50 pence is estimated to result in 121 fewer deaths per year by year 20 of the policy, and a fall in hospital admissions of just over 2,000 a year by year 20 of the policy. Minimum unit pricing is more effective than taxation because it is better able to target the cheap, high-strength alcohol favoured by those who drink the heaviest. Such a public health measure is supported by Ireland, Norway, Finland, Sweden, the Netherlands, and I know England is looking at this. And I urge everybody in this place to support this measure, which is bold, but it needs to be bold to help deal with the blight that alcohol has cast over too many of our communities. Now, global corporations in the alcohol industry have fought a hard legal battle against Scotland's introduction of minimum unit pricing. However, this measure was passed with overwhelming support in the Scottish Parliament. It's been tested in the European courts, and the appeal against it in the Supreme Court, following victory for the Scottish Government when it was tested at the Court of Session, is the final stumbling block of the introduction of this policy. And I hope and believe that this will be resolved by the summer at the latest and will be introduced in short order thereafter. And just in response to points raised by the Honourable Member for Congleton and Luton North, we in Scotland, in relation to drink driving limits, we've already reduced the drink driving limit to 50 milligrams per 100 millilitres of blood. And this means that the rest of the UK, and I think this is something that is a cause for great alarm, this means that the rest of the UK has the highest limit in the EU alongside Malta. And I would urge the Minister to follow the lead of Scotland and the rest of our EU partners in this regard, because reducing the alcohol blood level for drivers actually saves lives. I will indeed.
Fiona Bruce.
I'm very interested in knowing from her directly how it's not only saved lives, but also changed the drinking culture, how people have changed their attitude towards drinking. Because one of the points that is made to us is, regarding the Scottish experience, well, it's only very few lives that have been saved. But I think there's a bigger picture, isn't there, than that? Indeed, there is a bigger picture, and it is about laws don't necessarily change attitudes, but what they do over time is they change a culture. And it sends a clear signal out. And I think somebody mentioned it earlier in the debate. What happens is that when people are out and they're using their car, they tend not to drink. They're more likely to not drink at all because of the reduction in the drink driving limit. And it also, I think, has been a great educator for people who are out drinking and not driving, but might be driving the following day, when they decide, well, I better not drink tonight because I'm not quite sure if I might be over the limit tomorrow when I get in my car. And we all know that a lot of the people who have been called at the roadside and had their blood level tested in their cars
Many of those who are found to be over the drink driving limit were simply not aware of it because it was from the previous evening and they hadn't considered that perhaps they were still over the limit. I will do indeed.
Martin Day.
Thank you. Just on that point, would my honourable friend agree with me that the lower drink drive limit has been particularly effective with younger drivers?
Indeed, indeed. Of course, our younger drivers are the ones most likely to be inexperienced drivers and are therefore not willing, after all their blood, sweat and tears, having just passed their test, to risk it. So it's helping to reduce the alcohol intake of young people for a whole variety of reasons. Alcohol is killing too many people in our communities prematurely. I don't think there's any dispute about that. I don't think anybody in the chamber would dispute that. It's splitting up too many families. Its pervasive, insidious influence is the presence, the context in which too many of our children grow up. It's costing our NHS billions. It's exacerbating mental health challenges for too many people. And it is rendering too many people economically inactive. Alcoholism is a disease. And like any disease, we need to find the cure. One silver bullet will not cure this disease. But minimum unit pricing, how all of our high streets and neighbourhoods can support good health, need to contribute to it. There must be a presumption over an over-concentration of outlets selling alcohol, preying on our socially disadvantaged communities. All these things together, combined, can make a difference because they tackle price, availability and consumption. A serious problem, a serious disease such as alcohol addiction or misuse requires a serious, bold solution. And I would urge the UK and Welsh governments to look at the measures and the determination of the SNP government in Scotland to tackle this issue head-on. It's one of the most serious health challenges of our time.
Yeah.